We have a Fox Business alert just breaking. The White House just sending a letter to House Democrats announcing it will not comply with a, quote, illegitimate and unconstitutional impeachment inquiry. They cite lack of a precedent of an impeachment inquiry proceeding without a vote of the full House. Here now with us is former federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice, Jim Trusty. Boy, Jim, you're the perfect guy to have here at this moment. Andy McCarthy wrote about this a couple of days ago. He said the Constitution says the House has the power of impeachment, not that the Speaker of the House, and indicating that because there has not been a vote by the House as a body, this inquiry is illegitimate. What do you think?
Well, I trust Andy's research. He's very scholarly about these things, and I'm sure he dug through it and found some pretty good precedent for that position. I think what it really speaks to overall is not really the semantics of who started the probe or who gets to vote or who doesn't vote, but it looks like both sides are migrating towards litigation. They're each looking at in very absolute terms about what the power is here. They're moving this towards the courts, and the courts don't want to get in the middle of two branches of government, such as the executive and legislative branches. So I think we have a long, slow game that's about to play out here with the courts being involved against their will.
Jim, it's Carol Roth. As I'm talking to average Americans in real life on Twitter, one of the concerns that I keep hearing is that there isn't a level playing field here, that people think it's important for Congress to have oversight, but it seems to be that, depending on who's in charge, what political party they're affiliated with, and otherwise, that there seems to be different sets of rules, and people are happy to have some sort of investigation as long as that is the same for everybody else in Congress and anyone else who's been part of an administration, past and present. What's your take on that?
I think it's a great point. I mean, the reality is, whatever the final result of any particular investigation, it's only valid if the process is consistent and fair. And that means you might not like the end of that game, but if the process was fair, you can't say too much about it. Here, it does seem like over the last couple of years, there's an awful lot of ends justifying the means, where people want to change the process because they feel so strongly about Donald Trump. And I don't think that's the right path. And frankly, right now, what we're talking about is all about Adam Schiff, a former federal prosecutor who knows better than to say that it's obstructionist to fight him. And that's basically where we are. We've got this kind of quicksand of the House deciding that even if you want to fight and defend yourself, that somehow that might be a crime.
Hi, Jim. It seems like the Democrats are really placing a heavy investment on political antics, secondhand information, and complete optics, right? And while the Trump administration is really trying to focus on process, fairness, and actually procuring a situation where the evidence and individuals involved can be cross-examined. However, when you look at the electorate, the left believes siding with the Democrats, and the Republicans are siding with the Trump administration for the most part. However, that middle, concerning independents and swing voters, how are they going to see that? Are they going to lean toward how it looks or how it smells, or are they going to opt for process?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I mean, I'm a lawyer, not a political master, but I would just say that, look, I think you get outside the Beltway, an awful lot of people are completely sick of the fact of investigations. They don't want to hear about any investigations. They want to see something change for the better in terms of their country, their economy, their community. So I think there's a lot of fatigue when you get outside of the Beltway. But I do think that people are starting to get a notion that we need to have consistent, fair rules for everybody, no matter how much you feel self-righteous about your dislike of President Trump, perhaps. You need to have the same rules in place no matter whose goose is getting cooked.
Jim, it's Christina Partsinevelos here. To add on to what John just said, he said that the Trump administration is following the process and is fair, and fairness is a quote. Is it fair to stop and block the text messages from the U.S. ambassador to the EU? Is it fair as well to stop him from speaking? What are your legal thoughts on that?
Well, I don't look. I mean, legal's not necessarily the same as basic fairness. I think there's a lot of things that are happening that don't look good, that aren't necessarily the best tactic. I think a complete shutdown where you say we're not going to cooperate at all with the House is putting yourself in a less sympathetic posture when it comes to the courts. The courts want to see people working together on some level. My view is they should be taking this piece by piece. They should be saying, we're filing a motion to quash this subpoena, and here's why. We're not going to disclose privileged privileged information, and here's why, and really break it down into legal specifics instead of broad policy statements. What we're doing now is baiting the bear. We're going to have a court get involved, judge to judge. They all have different takes, and somebody's going to have to weigh in and decide who's playing fair, Congress or the White House.
Jim, the prediction market predicted is showing about a 72% chance that the House predicts the president. Put your own prediction hat on for a minute here. I know you said you're not, but in a word, will the president be impeached by the House, yes or no?
Well, I guess yes.
Right.
One word.
You asked for one word. You got one word. Jim Trusty. Yeah. That's why we love you. Thank you very much.
I'm usually paid by the word too. That was hard.
All right. Anyway. All right. Thank you. Next time we'll pay you a little more. You'll talk a little more. Good to see you, Jim.
Right. See you.